A lot of the fears that we have, we wouldn't allow to take root. Fears are normal. It's when you allow fears to take root inside of you and you begin to orchestrate your life around those fears. That's when life becomes not as beautiful. I don't know, except for self-preservation, I don't know anyone who say, man, I'm so glad I lived a fear-based life. Oh, whew, all that joy and excitement, I'm so glad I avoided all of that. All that love, I'm so glad I avoided all of that. I'm so glad I didn't go on those vacations. I'm so glad I didn't start that business, invest that money. I'm so glad. I mean, maybe that's your situation. I don't know. But imagine if you made a conscious choice when a moment came and something was unknown, instead of just letting the xenophobia kick in, imagine if you just pulled back. And instead of saying, well, what if? You say, imagine if.
Actually took time to learn about how incredible you were, nothing would ever stop you.
Let's have some good news. What a time it is to be alive. I appreciate you taking the time to watch, listen, learn with me, share with me, engage with me. Again, comment, share, subscribe. Anything that you do, whether you realize it or not, I'm watching and I'm taking the information in. I love the feedback. I love the interaction. But I want to talk to you about being xenophobic. Now, I know that when I say xenophobia, some of you are thinking about the way that we use that word today. Xenophobia. You're thinking about, a certain race of people or a certain group of people. That's actually not what the word means. I know that's what we've turned it into, but that's not what it means. Xenophobia is actually just a fear of the unknown. It's a intolerance of uncertainty, right? We've converted it. And I want you to think about fears. That's why I want to have this topic today, about that particular fear, that fear of uncertainty. And I thought to myself, how can I communicate this message in a way that would really land? And here's what I came up with. I want you to think about all of the things that we are fearful of doing because we don't know the outcome. I know people that won't get on an airplane, not just because they're afraid of flying, that's a whole other fear, but because they don't want to discover what else is out there, which is their choice, but they feel like, I'm good right here. But when you really pull it apart, they heard someone say that if you go to that place, then something happens to you. Okay. Businesses that weren't started because you didn't know what the outcome was. Okay. Relationships that you never even pursued because you didn't get the guarantee of what the outcome was. How many things can we get the guarantee of what the outcome is going to be? If you really stop and think, if you sat down and you made a list right now, how many things could you guarantee that you know what the outcome is going to be? Can you come up with 2? Not even. We live every day like we have this guarantee. We have a guarantee we're going to wake up. We have a guarantee our jobs are going to be there. We have a guarantee that the people we're with are going to keep loving us. We have this guarantee mentality, like as if it's real, and none of it's real. The reality is that the job can leave at any point in time. The person can leave at any point in time. Health can go at any point in time. Anything is possible. So in that world of anything is possible, living life with a space of I don't want to do this because there's no guarantee, what you're doing is you're choosing certain fears and you're allowing those fears of the unknown, even though if you really stop and think about it, everything's unknown. You're allowing the fear of what you do not have the guarantee on. And somehow you're making that the priority fear over just the day-to-day fear. Every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. There's no guarantees for any day at any moment of every day. But if you live your life and you're in constant state of what you won't do because you don't want the outcome was going to be, think about how much you take this world and you shrink it. Think about the vacations you haven't taken. Think about the people that you love that you never said that you loved. Think about the businesses, the ideas, all the things that were not pursued because of the fear of the unknown, because you're xenophobic. Think about it. And when you sit and you think to yourself, maybe when you're 10, 15 years old, maybe 20, 25, 30, 35, but as you start to move your life into new decades, you start to realize something. You start to realize, how long have these things held me back? How long should I allow these things to hold me back? You know, it's not that everyone loves risk. Risk is not necessarily not everyone has the same risk tolerance. I get it. But sometimes you have to put things on a scale and you have to say to yourself, okay, all right, here is what I have a desire for, but there's no guarantee that it's going to work. And here's the worst case scenario. So let's look at it. What's the worst case scenario? Well, in the case of a business, you start it, it fails. Okay, great. You go back to doing the thing you're doing before. Okay. You tell the person you love them and they say they're not interested. Okay. You go back to doing what you did before. Okay. Like, what changes? What changes? There's a huge change if you do it. You see, because the business might work and that person might love you back. And that new position you are afraid to go for might be your biggest breakthrough. But as long as you are xenophobic, you're not going to even attempt. You're not going to even try. You're going to stay right where you are. And when you're sitting right where you are, there's somebody else booking the vacation you won't take, because how do you know you're going to have a good time? There's someone else talking to the person that could be your life mate, because you won't open your mouth. There's a business that is going to have the same success you could have had, but you didn't start it. They did. And so now you sit back and watch. You see, life is not going to fulfill every single expectation. That's just the way it is. We have these big dreams. Not every expectation is going to be fulfilled. However, what we should be clear about is that nothing is going to be fulfilled as long as you're scared to take an action. When you see people who come to an intersection of where I could be versus where I am, and they may not be happy where they are, but they stay there because they're at that intersection. And because they don't know where that new path will take them, they stay right where they are. Okay. We've all done it. You might have done it today. You might have an example right now. Right, you could probably whip it out and you could throw it on the table and be like, this just happened to me this day, this week, this month, whatever it is. Every one of us is going to have those stories. But the difference between a great life and a life in deep regret is putting things in their proper context and asking this very simple question. What is the worst thing and what is the best thing that could happen? What is the worst thing, but what is the best thing that could happen? You see, because when you ask yourself that question, what is the worst thing and what is the best thing that could happen? What begins to happen is you separate yourself from all the emotional swirlings and you get to stand back and you just get to look at it. You get to look at it. Okay, I'm working for a pharmaceutical company. I do not like my job. I want to leave. I want to go do something else. What is the worst thing that could happen? I lose my job or I quit my job and I have to go find something else. But I already want to do something else. So why is that so bad? It's so bad because I don't know what the next thing is going to be. Well, I know I don't want to be here. So is it really that bad? I don't know. I don't think so. But sometimes when you're in the moment and you're in the emotion of it, you don't even realize that what you're committing to is the total opposite of what you really want. And then you look up and you're 90, you're 90 and you're looking back like, what did I do? Man, I spent 30 years there. I spent 50 years there. I spent all this time worried about all this stuff. And meanwhile, the hourglass sand of my life was draining out. And I was sitting there worried about all these things that would never have happened. and the possibility things that could have happened, that could have made the palette of my life so much more beautiful, so many more colors, not just black and white, not just gray. There could have been lavenders in my life. There could have been all these hues in my life, but I didn't pursue it because I didn't have a guarantee. And as long as you're xenophobic, the planet shrinks, relationships shrink, dreams shrink, everything shrinks into this little ball instead of all this expansion. How many oceans should you really have seen by now? How are you going to get there? Costs money, right? Well, how are you going to have the money if you're scared to do the thing that's going to make you more money? So you don't see the oceans. You don't get to have the experiences. Hey, everyone, just a thought. I believe that every single human being at some point has an expiration date. That's what I believe. Now, with science, who knows what this is going to look like in the next 20 years, but for right now, that's what I believe. And so you have to ask yourself this question. If I'm afraid of experiencing the new, and at the same time, I know that my life has an expiration, I'm literally paying a price every day, and then one day I pay the ultimate price. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, there's always going to be this voice that is saying, you should really blank. You should really blank. And there's going to be another voice that says, don't do that, that's dangerous, or I wouldn't do that if I were you. But man, at the end of the day, the outcome's the same outcome for everyone. We're all going to have the same outcome. It's the way it is. It's a build. We have a certain amount of years to live this life, to experience great things, hard things, upsetting things, exciting things. And then we go to our maker. We have this finite window of time to have these experiences. Don't have the fear of the unknown. Don't be xenophobic. Don't let the fear of what is further down that river that you don't know, don't let it stop you. You have to go. You have to step into that fog. You can't see behind the fog, but there's something behind that fog. You have to step into it. Because that's like why we're here. We're here to have experiences. We're here to live, not just exist, live. And you don't want to look up one day and realize that you had a life, but you never lived. You're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. I'm going to get it wrong. I get it wrong every day. But I'm still here to get it wrong. Man, do you know I'm still here to get it wrong is a gift in of itself because somebody did not have the ability today to get anything wrong. You see, time stopped for them, but you're still here. It's still going for you. And so allow yourself, as long as you're still here, to live the life you've been gifted with and to allow yourself to not hold on to, but what if? Imagine if. Get it? Slight difference. What if? Imagine if. Because when you can go from the fear of what if, to imagine if, it's possible that everything that you've ever wanted has really been waiting for you. It says when you have the faith of a grain of a mustard seed and you say to that mountain, move, the mountain shall move. That's a powerful teaching. If we spent more time just marinating in that teaching, a lot of the fears that we have, we wouldn't allow to take root. Fears are normal. It's when you allow fears to take root inside of you and you begin to orchestrate your life around those fears. That's when life becomes not as beautiful. I don't know, except for self-preservation, I don't know anyone who say, man, I'm so glad I lived a fear-based life. All that joy and excitement, I'm so glad I avoided all of that. all that love. I'm so glad I avoided all of that. I'm so glad I didn't go on those vacations. I'm so glad I didn't start that business, invest that money. I'm so glad. I mean, maybe that's your situation. I don't know. But imagine if you made a conscious choice when a moment came and something was unknown, instead of just letting the xenophobia kick in, imagine if you just pulled back. And instead of saying, well, what if? You say, imagine if. You might be surprised what might happen.
You actually took time to learn about how incredible you were, nothing would ever stop you. See, the definition of sight is the faculty or power of seeing.